Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. One of my all-time favorite people is in the studio with me. And for anybody that has been anywhere in San Diego for any time, you know who this name is, Patti Roscoe, community leader extraordinaire, has been involved in, you name it, just absolutely all over this community, giving back, as she always has. She was the PRA Destination Management. She founded it in 1981, became worldwide, international. Wouldn't surprise me if it was in a few other solar systems as well. Patti Roscoe, how are you?
I am fine. Good morning, and how are you, Drew?
I'm doing great. It is just wonderful to see you, and we get a chance to stumble on each other at some events, not as many as we used to go to in the past. And I was really honored that you would say yes to come in and just chat about, community service, what you did in the past. I love talking about our relationship. But let me just talk about community service and community leadership, something that's obviously in your DNA. When did this epiphany hit that I want to give back to the community? Did it start when you were younger, growing up? Did it wait until you actually got into college or out of college? When did you get this affinity for giving back?
It actually started when I moved from Buffalo, New York to San Diego and got into the hospitality business. And I worked for a gentleman named Martin Blatt, who ran Vacation Village Hotel then. And he and his wife, Linda, were not hotel people. They had been hired by the Skirball brothers. You see their name on the big drive to LA.
Right.
Two entrepreneurs who ran big businesses. They hired Martin because he had run a department store for them, and they bought this hotel in Vacation Village in Mission Bay and never knew anything about a hotel business. And they hired Martin, who knew nothing about the hotel business. And he needed someone as a secretary assistant. And he hired me, and I had been in broadcasting. I knew nothing about the hotel business. But we and the team that he put together built that into a wonderful resort hotel, and he was a joiner of everything: the Chamber, the Mission Bay Lessees, the Mission Bay Associates, the San Diego Convention and Visitors Bureau. So I'm a reflection of what I learned from Martin and Linda.
So Vacation Village, I used to go to all the time. And the reason why, my father was a medical doctor, and he'd always give a talk in San Diego. And so my brother and I got to go down. While he's giving the talk, we were fooling around Vacation Village, riding the bikes and all that business. You know what I'm talking about. And then we go to the zoo, or we go down to Tijuana and all that business. Because when I mentioned Vacation Village to people, they go, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, it's got a different name now. It used to be San Diego Princess. What is it called now? I don't know what it's called now. It used to be called the Princess, right? Correct? Yeah.
I'm sure.
But it was Vacation Village back in the day.
Right.
Exactly.
I think it's Paradise Point.
It's exactly what it is, Paradise Point, and so forth. So I haven't heard the term Vacation Village at all. So when I bring it up, people look at me cross-eyed. When did you say, I think I want to be in this field and for my own business? PRA. So now you're working at Vacation Village. When did you form your business? 1981, right?
Yes. I worked for Vacation Village for a long time.
Right.
And Martin at one point said you have more talent than this. And so I went to work as a front office manager at the then Islandia Hotel. So I was in a management job.
I know it. Hyatt Islandia?
Well, it became a Hyatt.
That's right. Right.
And two gentlemen moved. They rented an office space there. They were from New York. They were entrepreneurs. And they had a company called a Destination Management Company in Brazil. And they were looking for a city in the United States to replicate that. And they chose San Diego. That's a much longer story than this show. But they chose San Diego. They knew nothing about the city. I, because of my tutelage through Martin and Linda, belonged to everything.
Right.
I just gave back to the organizations that were important. So I knew a lot of people, and I was very active politically. So they hired me, and they wanted me to run the San Diego office. So I had a little office in the Islandia Hotel, had no idea what this company did. And once again, I was sent to Brazil for about 3 months, and I studied what they did there and how they did it.
Wow.
And I replicated it in San Diego in an office out of the Islandia Hotel.
Right. And you built up, your business, PRA, Destination Management, obviously international, to say the least, on this. And did you have any thought that, my goodness, this thing is just getting huge. How am I going to do this? Or you go, no, I got the skill sets to do this, and I learned so much from Skirball folks or whatever the case may be, and now the folks in Brazil. But this thing just took off like wildfire.
I decided I needed to go out on my own. And so a very good friend said, you can get an SBA loan. I was a single woman and considered an underprivileged minority. So I went to the SBA. They gave me a loan, and I started to invest in people. I found an office in Golden Hill that worked out fine, and I knew what I wanted to do, but I knew I need the right people. So I put the word out to some of my colleagues. I'm starting this new business. I can pay you now, but we will get bigger. And they believed in that. And that's sort of the start of the story. And then what I had to do is create the opportunities for bringing clients into San Diego, because what companies like Destination Management do, they bring companies into San Diego who are having a convention or a corporate meeting or a performance improvement program. That's really what I specialized in. And San Diego was not known as a destination. So we had to go out to Minneapolis and St. Louis and Chicago and New York and the West Coast. And then we went international and telling our story that people needed to bring business here. IBM was my first account. They out of New York, White Plains, and they were doing a performance improvement program. They wanted their people to work hard and reach a goal and then win this trip. And I had about 500 of them come. And it was a client that stayed with me almost my entire career.
Oh, my goodness. So, we're chatting with Patti Roscoe, and, former founder and CEO and everything with PRA Destination Management, community leader, heavily involved in everything. I want to talk about your role with San Diego State and your what you do with them, near and dear to your heart. I'm an Aztec, Aztec for life.
Go Aztecs.
And go Aztecs, right? And so forth. And community service I want to talk about as well. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlossberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast. Now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 6 decades, just doing great things in San Diego County. So, you're out there trying to recruit business to come to San Diego, right? When you go to the cities, whether it's Minneapolis or Boston or whatever, to try to get people to come here, are you meeting with their chambers? Are you meeting with their economic development corporations or Rotarians? Who are you meeting with to bring people out here?
I'm meeting with clients.
Okay, gotcha. So there's specific businesses like IBM, correct?
IBM, or there are companies who work with IBM to run all these programs for them. They're specialized, and that they're in those cities that I mentioned.
Right.
And I developed relationships with them. My team developed relationships with them, so that when we were the supplier side of what these companies were doing. IBM was their client. They did everything for IBM. They hired us to do the inbound.
Right, exactly. So 81, you started it. This thing, obviously expanded, to say the least. That would be the understatement of the world. You get involved in almost anything in that aspect of it. Before we get to San Diego State, I just want to tell people how you and I have known each other for quite a while, and I'm just honored to be able to call you a friend and a colleague and everything in between. But it was after 9/11 that you and I worked really closely together, and I was fortunate, as you were too, but I actually got to work in the same company he did. It was Herb Klein. And Herb Klein was President Nixon's director of communications, but has always been very much affiliated with the Copley family. He was close with Jim Copley. And then Jim passed away in 1973, but Mrs. Copley kept the business going, and then David took over for it. So I'll never forget, 9/11 happens on a Tuesday, and Herb calls us into his office the next day. It's Wednesday. I ran community and public relations for the paper, and Marilyn Creason, who you knew, Marilyn Creason Brown now, was our finance person. And Herb said, okay, now I talked to David Copley, and we're going to put on a big event. And we're going to put a big event, and David wants to do it in Balboa Park, where the Oregon Pavilion is, and we want to choose this date to do it. So here's what's going to happen. And Patti Roscoe, who's the expert on putting on events, by the way, you're going to be doing this thing, okay? And you said, okay, fine, that's no problem. 20,000 people, I think, showed up. I promoted it and so forth. And then we had to find a whole bunch of certain types of mandibrite. It was a type of cardstock that we made flags. As you remember, we ran out of flags in San Diego County, so we actually printed up flags in the special print and put it in the newspaper. And here you are. It was, I think you and I had met before that, of course, but you're now tasked with, in pretty short order, putting together this big event. You remember that?
I remember it vividly. It was a challenge because we had quite a few accounts in San Diego, in all of our offices at that point. And the first goal for me was getting them home.
Right.
And the airplanes weren't flying. So I used every mode of transportation. I got them home, so they got home. And then this came up, and the mayor called Herb Claude, and we all met in that office.
Right.
And what can we do? And we sat down and we put a grid together on, this is what we can do. This is a day of remembrance.
That's right.
That's what we call it.
Day of Unity, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we want to get the community together. We want them to grieve. We want them to feel the joy. And what you, I, and a number of leaders did was get together the top community leaders. We got the military. We had snipers walking along the top of the Organ Pavilion because we were still in quasi
100%.
Sense of possible war. But we had 10, 15,000 people, as I recall.
I think of 15 to 20, but
I think
you're right.
You're right.
Right.
And they came from everywhere with blankets, with towels, and
flags.
Flags, and the red, white, and blue outfits. And we had all these speakers, and I worked the green room in the back.
Right.
Trying to get them out. Remember, you only have 3 to 4 minutes. You only have 3 to 4 minutes because we wanted everyone to have an opportunity.
That's right.
And it was one of my fondest, saddest memories.
Well, what was interesting about it, I pretty much was shoulder to shoulder with Herb in his office for the week and a half leading up to it, and Mayor Murphy was the MC. And to your point, so we had Bill Collender, I think he was sheriff at the time, then we had the police chief and the fire chief, and then we had all the religious leaders. We had Bishop Brom, head rabbi, the head imam. But you may not remember this. I might have shared this with you recently. So it's Friday before the Sunday event. I think we did it on September 23rd, so it's the 21st. I get a call from the number 2 editor at the paper. Karin Winter was, of course, the editor, but Todd Merriman This is about 11 o'clock at night on Friday, and said, by the way, Drew, I want to let you know, one of the speakers you've hired, we're running a story on A1 tomorrow that he harbored 2 of the terrorists that flew into the towers. And of course, after I fainted and I picked myself back up, I go, huh? He goes, oh yeah, well, he denies it and so forth, but we're just let you know we're going to run the story. I said, okay. So I call Herb. It's about 11:15 now at night. Of course, Herb, tireless, right? I said, by the way, we're running a story tomorrow that the Iman, unknowingly, according to him, harbored 2 of these guys. He didn't know they were going to be flying into the trade center. He goes, oh yeah, well, that's not a problem. I go, Herb, we can't have this if we're running a story on Saturday and we're going to get some crazy person on Sunday to take these people out. And he said, oh, okay, well, let me call David and see what David thinks. And so he calls David, and Herb calls me back, David Copley being the owner of the paper. Well, David, he's not too worried about that. I said, Herb, we can't do this. He goes, let me call the mayor. Let me see what Dick Murphy says. So he calls me back and goes, well, Dick agrees with you. So we can't do this. So we had to find another Iman to do this. But we ran the story still. The reason why we had all of those snipers up on top of the Oregon Pavilion is we didn't know who was going to read the story and then didn't realize that person wasn't speaking. It was a little bit tense. As we all know, that everyone is up, walking on pins and needles right after 9/11. Anyway, you did a beautiful job, to say the least, Patti. It was a great event, one of my favorites in this aspect of it. We come back from break. I want to talk about San Diego State, near and dear to your heart. And what advice you'd give for people to get involved with community service, and why it's so important, whether it's you give 1 hour a month or you give 20 hours a month and whatever you give. When we return with Patti Roscoe, longtime community leader extraordinaire, the founder, the very, very successful PRA Destination Management. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast. Now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, doing great things for people living in San Diego County. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, broadcasting from this pretty cool Mission Fed studio here in Scripps Ranch with my longtime friend and colleague. She is arguably I'll say the top one of community leaders in San Diego County. That's Patti Roscoe. I ran a very, very successful PR Destination Management business, heavily involved in so many great causes. Patti, you and I have worked together. Obviously, we talked about 9/11, have seen each other in these things and so forth. But before we talk about community service and what advice you'd give to people, young and old, for getting involved, San Diego State, why is that near and dear to your heart?
SDSU, Aztecs fight, yes.
Yes, exactly.
I never had the opportunity to go to college, just didn't. And one of my best friends is Joyce Gaddis, who at the time was dean, and she got me involved in the university and many programs. And I live vicariously through the kids, I think. I walk campus, talk to them, mentor them, involved in their events. And they ask me for advice. Whether they want it or not, I'll give it to them.
It's good advice.
I think there's nothing more important than making a difference in the life of a child, whether it's a child or a student or,
Sure.
And so that has been a long time passion of mine.
And so, you've been getting an honorary doctorate degree at San Diego State, and I love Joyce Gaddis. I worked very closely with her because I taught in the journalism department. That was part of professional, studies in fine arts, which she was the dean then at like 13 different colleges there. Of course, it changed to, journalism media studies, actually JMS. I'm dating myself when it was just the journalism department. And Joyce is wonderful for 65,000 different reasons. But didn't you form some type of hospitality management component at San Diego State? Talk about that.
Yes. Bob Payne, who is a local wonderful entrepreneur, and I worked together on different projects at San Diego State. And one day he said to me, I do not understand why this university does not have a program in the hospitality business. We are, as a city, a laboratory. And so I said, okay, Bob. At the time, I was modest in my career. I said, Bob, you write the big check, and I'll do all the work. And he looked at me in his very quiet way, and he said, okay. And he wrote $1 million check. And I did all the work. I got the.
You did?
Well, he was always there. He was always supportive. But I got the faculty together. I got the president involved. I got Joyce certainly was a strong component of this. And I got all of the hotel general managers in a room and said, you have long wanted to know why you couldn't get students to help in your hotels. So it's because they don't know what your hotels do. This is what we want to do. We want to create this program. And in that room with Bob and Joyce and me, we were able to assign these guys to do things, build the curriculum, figure out the money, the timing, everything. And it took about 6 months, but we came with a wonderful program.
That's a great program, and that's not that long. And it's interesting. I'm a big fan of certainly hospitality. How could you not? It's such an economic driver in San Diego County. But it's far behind the military. The military contributes $55 billion in indirect spending and about $35 billion in direct spending on this. And, not a close second, but second is hospitality, of course, and entertainment. Certainly in that area. So we all know what an economic driver that is. Of course, with COVID hit, had a big impact on certainly the entertainment aspect of it. But I think that's great, what you offer in that area. Community service. You are the poster child, adult, whatever you want to call yourself, on this for community service. Why is it so important to you? You sort of mentioned it a little bit. And why should everybody, no matter how much time you can give or how much money you can give, $5 is fine. It's a start, right? Why is it so critical?
The organizations with which we're talking are nonprofits. And they have to work hard to get staff, get money, get volunteers, get supporters. And I always felt if you have the ability, why not give? Give your time, talent, treasure, as Michael Brunker likes to say.
Yep.
At some point for whatever cause you can, and find your passion. Not everyone's going to be passionate about one nonprofit or another. And that's pretty much what I did. I decided what tugged my heart. And I got involved with Girl Scouts, the Police Foundation. I'm going to forget some, but quite a few in town that I've enjoyed the relationship because you get into a bubble in your own life with the people that you work with, that you entertain with, that you have in your life. And then you go outside that bubble and you volunteer with the police officers and the canines, or you volunteer with the Girl Scouts and getting those young women, mentoring them. And it just gives you so much pride in yourself and joy in helping others, I guess.
Well, and it's meaningful. There are certain people that can afford to write a little bit bigger checks than others, and that's fine. And there's some that can't, and that's okay. It's just getting involved. And I tell people this all the time. Yeah, I've been doing the show for 18 years, Patti, and obviously 6,000 interviews, mainly with CEO types of nonprofits and for-profits like yourself. And, every single executive director you talk to or a CEO of a nonprofit says the same thing. We'll take you for $5. That's great. That's beautiful. We just want to get you involved. You can only give 2 hours this week or 2 hours this month. Hey, help us at the event, work registration. Because when you see what we do, whether it's promises to kids or it's just in time for foster youth or it's the 8,000 nonprofits we have or whatever the number is these days, you are making a difference. And I think when people understand, well, they can't possibly $5 go anywhere. I go, yes, it can. Talk to the food bank. When $5, back in the day, it provided 25 meals. Now it's 5 meals, And so it makes a difference. And, I love having the food bank on because food insecurity is such a huge deal here. And you know this because you've been in the community. And because you and I have been involved so much, we know that there are hundreds of thousands of people that go hungry every day in San Diego County. And people go, how's that even possible? It's possible. How many kids have never been to the beach in San Diego County? A ton. How many have never been to the mountains? How many people have never been to a Padre game? And if you live in that bubble, you have no idea.
We have a program in Rotary where we take kids up to camps.
Is that Camp Enterprise?
Camp Enterprise. And there are a number of programs for kids who really want an experience. And usually we do it through the schools, we do it through parents, or we do it through youth organizations. And I have done lots of those kinds of programs. And they are first very cautious, these young people. These are adults. I mean, they're like mom and dad. And yet you get into an environment where they trust you and they want to talk to you. And then they open up, and they'll open up in sessions together. They'll open up in sessions one-on-one. And it, again, you're changing the life of a child. And many of them over the years have stayed in touch. To this day, I have 2 or 3 that are now adults, and they're successful.
Well, and as you well know, and it's something that's a common refrain on my show, is that, I'll give you a great example. Earlier today, we had the founder of Fundamental Health on, and a very, very introspective guy. He's had some mental health difficulties for 14 years. He said, you know what, I'm going to form a company that helps people get through these mental health issues because a lot of providers don't provide it. And so we had somebody on, his very first client this year. The mom was on for a kid that was suffering some pretty powerful stuff, and the kid's doing much, much better. And they have 4 kids in the family, but those other 3 benefit from the fact the kid's improving. And we all know, maybe that kid or that adult that has the issue with X, but now that you've worked with that kid, it's their family, it's their friends that are all impacted by what you've done for that one kid. And I think that's the thing a lot of people don't understand in that area. So, thank you, Patti, for giving some of your time. I know you're still on warp speed doing 4 million great things. The community service there's just so many great things that come with it. And I'm glad you can chat about that at all. And I want you to, you're going to add something, please.
Just one quick thing.
Please.
My partner, Jim Tiffany, has been involved with Monarch School for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
From when it was way behind. When Sandra was pulling kids out from the underpasses and giving them showers. And if you watch where Monarch School is today, and how they are graduating kids into the city colleges, into San Diego State,
Right.
into trade schools. These are the kinds of things San Diegans create and give our passions to. So I had to mention that.
So the CEO was on recently from Monarch School, and we work very closely. One of my passions is the Classroom of the Future Foundation, which we work shoulder to shoulder with the County Office of Education. The new Assistant Superintendent of Student Services is an amazing guy. You need to meet him. His name is Joseph Clevenger. Monarch School falls under him, as does JCCS. And San Pasquale Academy with my business partner, Charles Parisi, the founder and CEO of Cloudcast, has written curriculum for those kids. And it's the underrepresented of the underrepresented, to say the least. So when you see those lives being changed and then the lives that they'll change moving forward, it's wonderful. So promise me you'll come back on somewhere down the road. And, how about we have you come on with Joyce, okay, and talk about all the great things that are still going on that you folks are doing. And, it cannot hurt to tell these wonderful stories.
Joyce and I love to do that. And we love to talk about San Diego State.
We'll talk about San Diego
we're in the
State.
Pac-12 almost.
Yeah, exactly. Well, San Diego State is struggling a little bit now. They're in.
They'll make it.
They're in the Pac-7, and we need to go ahead and have them, go ahead and make it the Pac-8 at least, and so forth. You've been following in the story. Patti Roscoe, a treasure seeing you again. I'm honored to call you friend and colleague. Say hi to Jim for me as well, and we'll look forward to having you back on.
And Jim says hi to you.
That sounds good.
Thank you, Drew.
My pleasure. Drew Schlosberg, you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. I've been doing this for 18th year, brought to you by the amazing folks at Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, just doing great things for people living in San Diego County, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's literacy, whether it's art, or everything in between. These guys are just doing great things to, raise us up. We hope that you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.